You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton, here with you guys. Hanging out today, we're doing another banger episode. We got none other than DJ Carroll, Coach Carroll, on the line. DJ, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's up, man? Thanks so much for having me, and shout out to everybody listening.
Absolutely, bro. Well, so some of you guys know Coach Carroll, DJ. DJ's been all over Keith Kalfas's YouTube channel, and he's actually at Keith Kalfas's live event, the Marketing ROI event that Keith puts on every other year or so. That's where I got to meet DJ. So DJ was actually, I think you were the startup speaker, weren't you, kicking it off?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Hot out the gate.
That was, well, you did. You pumped up the crowd. We were doing all these like air pump, fist bump things, and you know what I'm talking about. We were getting the blood flowing. It was like 8:30 in the morning, bro. It was early. And it was a really good time. And you were one of the speakers, and I got to listen to you for about 30 to 45 minutes, do a bunch with closing, sales training, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, which is kind of like your background. And you're actually a business coach as well. But you actually, not a lot of people know this, but you got started with a lawn and landscaping business. So
yeah, man.
Why don't you take maybe 60 seconds, get these guys up to speed with your background, and we're going to have a lot of fun on this episode. So go ahead, take it away, bro.
Yeah, man, for sure. So again, appreciate you having me. I started, a lot of people don't know that. They see that, I've got a service business with power washing and window cleaning and some other companies, but
sure.
I started my senior year of high school, $300, bought a Walmart weed eater, a Walmart push mower, and just started knocking doors like a lot of guys start. I always make the joke though that I couldn't even afford a leaf blower, so I had to use a push broom. And that was the first lesson that I learned on reinvesting profits to upgrade your equipment, because that sucked.
Yeah.
But yes, so we took it from there, and I grew that company to about 17 employees, $3 million in revenue before selling it all.
Wow.
I've done over 17 merger and acquisition deals, meaning I either bought or sold a company, actually in the process of selling off another one. So
wow.
I'm just a hustler. I've written books, fly airplanes, speak on stages, and I'm just excited to be on the podcast and hopefully bring some value to the people that are listening, because I know a lot of your guys are lawn and landscape guys, and just hopefully be able to give them some of the lessons that I've learned and shorten their path to success.
Amen to that, bro. Well, you guys are in for a treat if you're listening to this, because DJ's got a huge background, like you were just saying, in sales, entrepreneurship, a little bit of everything, bro, which is exciting. And you're a hustler, man. And all the guys listening in, they're hustling all day. Most of them right now, like you said, they're probably on their lawnmowers or doing a landscape job. And when you're an entrepreneur, man, you eat, breathe, and sleep this, don't we? And you can't talk about business and success enough. So, well, let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from the show sponsors, because we got to pay for this thing and pay for the lights, and we do love the brands that support us, and we like to support them. So let's do this. I'm going to take a sip of water. We're going to hear from the today's show sponsor, and then we're going to get right back into it.
Step up your hearing protection game this season with IsoTunes. Our headphones merge high-quality audio with noise-blocking earplugs. So ditch those hot and heavy muffs, or upgrade your non-protective earbuds. Our newest release, IsoTunes Pro 2.0, offers 16 hours of battery life and is completely waterproof. Treat your ears to OSHA-certified hearing protection at isotunes.com today.
Hey, it's Marty, and whenever my wife complains that I'm not responding to her as she's yelling from the other side of the house, I just remind her, baby, I had my IsoTunes in. IsoTunes has saved me from having to unclog toilets, fold laundry, and massage bunions. It's one of the best investments I've ever made, and got to tell you, these things are nearly indestructible. The Pro 2.0, completely sweat, water, and dust-proof, and they're currently offering free shipping on orders over $70 at isotunes.com. That's ISO-tunes, isotunes.com. Now back to Brian's interview with Coach Carroll.
Awesome, guys. Well, great deal. Well, thank you so much to the show sponsor for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Guys, thank you so much for, sponsoring, or I should say supporting the sponsors that allow us to make this whole thing happen. None of this is cheap. The production, the editing, the studio, and of course, thank you to, DJ for taking time out of his busy schedule and time away from his business to make this happen as well. So
my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
This is good. So, well, let's take it back, man. So how did you get started? You said you run a couple $1 million in revenue landscape company. Were you like the young kid just trying to hustle? Where were you living at the time? Because I know you're in Kentucky right now. Were you always down in Louisville or?
No, so I originally grew up in Indianapolis. My parents got divorced when I was 15, and I moved with my mom back to Kentucky, back to her little hometown.
Okay.
A little river town of 10,000 people in the county. And,
sure.
I was actually going to be a chemical engineer. So, took, chemistry 1, chemistry 2, AP chemistry. I aced all 3 of them. And I always tell people I was a smart football player, so I had several scholarship offers. And but my senior year, man, I bought the mower. I wanted to make money because I didn't come from much. Like my dad worked for he was a dog catcher, sanitation worker, so never made more than about $20 an hour. And my mom kind of raised me and my brother, so very, very humble beginnings. And so I knew that if I went off to college, I was just going to be broke. And so I'd already kind of started mowing grass and making a little bit of money. And I'm like, man, I'm just going to stay here local. So I went to community college for a little bit there in Carrollton, 3 semesters. And it just wasn't for me. When I try to go in and I say, hey, I want to take business finance, and they say, okay, well, you don't have the prerequisites. I'm like, all right, what are those? Well, accounting kind of makes sense. History of rock and roll. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I dropped out shortly thereafter and have just kind of never looked back. But, the first thing I want to advise everybody on is you got to believe in yourself when nobody else does. When I was a senior in high school, my chemistry teacher, she tried to talk me out of being a business owner. She's like, so what, you're just going to mow grass for the rest of your life? And I was like, no, I'm going to be a business owner. Like, I'm going to build a business.
Right.
You can't expect other people to understand your dream, let alone believe it. So you've got to sew that thing up inside of you and really double down on your own beliefs, because I always make the joke, like, how can you expect anybody to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? So if you're out there, you're hustling, you're trying to grow your first little business, I say little, like, everyone starts small. And I don't care if you start at $1 million or you start at $100, that's still small in aspect to everybody else, because there's always going to be somebody smaller and there's always going to be somebody bigger, no matter where you're at. And sure. I quickly learned that. But yeah, man, we grew, typical residential started, then we got into commercials, and we did some industrial. And like I was telling you before the show, I mean, at our peak, we were mowing 65 acres a week, 17 guys. We were doing rest areas for the state of Kentucky, state park. We did Corps of Engineers, one of their dams on Ohio River, like where we had to fill out a whole safety plan. Wow. It was just awesome, Brian. Honestly, it was a lot of experience, and I learned a ton.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I knew that it's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But for me, it was kind of going to the school of hard knocks, and so I learned a lot of lessons. We went through. At our peak, we went through 300 employees in 2.5 years. So I learned a lot of ways on how to not hire people.
That's awesome. And that's honest. I appreciate it. That's honest.
Yeah,
it's a mill, I call it fresh meat for the grinder, so.
Yeah, man. And, a lot of people want to come on podcasts and shit like this and try to act like, oh, I got it all figured out and never made mistakes. But cool for them. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. But I always tell everyone, mistakes aren't mistakes if you learn a lesson.
Sure.
And as long as you can learn something from it, it's good. So yeah, I grew up in small town Carrollton, and grew the business out of there, honestly, the whole time. So don't let where you're at keep you from achieving your dreams. I always say, stand where you are, use what you have.
Right.
And that's so important. Yeah. I didn't move to Louisville until 2017. So just a few years ago.
Gotcha.
When I sold the lawn and landscape business, and I retained the Easy Pro brand, and we went all into exterior cleaning. So,
well, let me ask you this. So a lot of guys, and they've heard me say this before, right? Is that, the lawn and landscape company, and now I'm not currently trying to get out of the industry or anything like that. I like my business. It's small. It's owner operator. I know that I have certain limitations with how I run my business, certain gains and positives with how I run my business. But I've told a lot of guys, I was sharing this on a podcast. I don't know if it was Stanley Dirt Monkey or Corey Ballard, one of these guys, but a lot of guys that get started in a lawn and landscape company, that entrepreneurial hustle, it does translate into other businesses. There's so many guys that run a lawn and landscape company, and the next thing you know, they own a gym. Then they own a hotel. Then they own a landscape supply yard, right? And I think that's totally cool. If you want to evolve into those other businesses and niches and industries, I think, I don't know, I just feel like lawn and landscape companies have a great opportunity to generate a ton of cash flow And I've come to learn that you got to do something with it. As we've been blessed with more lately, I'm like, man, now we really got to start thinking. I thought the hard part was to get it. The harder part's to keep it and grow it, right? And so let me ask you that. What's your opinion, your perspective on that? So when you were in the lawn and landscape company and you sold it, were you trying to get into other niches or other industries, or what was the MO behind getting rid of the company?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's cool because nobody's really ever asked me that. So one thing, this is one thing why I like you, Brian, is that you're no bullshit, and like you don't just talk out the side of your mouth. You really know what you're talking about. And so what you said was lawn and landscape businesses are great for cash flow. Yeah. And that's exactly right. That's what they are. They're cash flow businesses. That's why, unfortunately, they're not worth anything when you sell them because you have depreciating assets. Like if you have employees now as an owner operator, like your mowers will last you a lot longer than with employees. Like we used to run through a Skag mower and like at the end of 36 months, the thing was trash, bro. Like it had 1,100, 1,200 hours on it and it was ready to go to the junkyard. Versus, if you're an owner operator, cash flow. And then I will also tell people, like, don't be afraid to be self-employed and be that owner operator in the early days. And like, I think that's one of my mistakes is I grew out of being an owner operator too fast, which gave me a lot of growing pains down the road. So back to your question, the reason why I got out was strictly for cash flow. We're doing millions of dollars and I'm not fucking making anything. Like I'm not making any money. So at the end of the month, I'm paying $7,000 worth of repair bills. And like, after everybody's paid, I'm like, I got $5,000 left over in the bank. Like, what the hell is this about? And so then, I go over to my QuickBooks and I'm looking because I keeping clean books is really, really important. And so I itemized all my income. And so like when I look at lawn care and landscaping, the profit margins were okay. But with lawn care, meaning lawn maintenance, right? Mowing grass. Looking at that, it was the largest chunk of my expenses. And so it made it the least profitable amount of revenue.
Sure.
And so it was a very black and white or black and red, if you want to look at it that way, type of decision where when I'm looking at power washing and I say, all right, I send one guy out with $10,000 worth of equipment and he washes a $500 house in 2 hours, or I send two guys out with $20,000 worth of equipment. They work all day mowing grass and make like $600. It didn't. I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but that wasn't too hard for me to figure out.
Absolutely, that's fair.
And so for me, a couple of the contracts, I knew there were some changes coming down the line, but there still was some length on them, so they had value to the company that I sold it to. But for me, it was strictly a financial decision of, I can get out of lawn and landscaping and go to a higher dollar per man hour rate. And that is something that I think a lot of people don't ever really look at. They just look at their gross revenue, they look at their expenses, they look at their profit, and they say, cool, I've netted X number of dollars. They don't ever even get into cash flow, so to speak, if you're using debt. But that's maybe for another topic, another show. But that was the reason, man. It didn't make as much money as other things that I could do. And man that chases two rabbits catches none. So I just I realigned my focus, and we went all in on exterior cleaning. And now we're doing projects all over the Midwest and Southeast. That's
awesome, man. Like, that's why I'm so passionate. And by the way, I appreciate you sharing and just giving these guys some insight because, a lot of these guys that are cutting grass, look, that's why I preach, DJ, till I'm blue in the face, route density, higher pricing, being able to make, 900, 1,200, 1,500 a day in gross revenue mowing because you almost have to make that same margin that you can do in landscaping or brick pavers. Now, or fertilizer and treatment. So when I did my live event a little over a year ago, a lot of folks were like, well, why are you bringing in Caleb Allman with brick pavers or Jason Creel with fertilizer and treatments? And I'm like, because you make more per man hour and you can have a higher margin typically. Now you can lose a lot more money too, right? Because now you just add a zero on everything, right? But that's why we try to, and here's the irony. Here's the funny part. Like you had a landscaping business. Now you're doing a lot with pressure washing, real estate, and other small businesses. And it was a business move. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we talk all day long till we're blue in the face about helping you guys maximize profit. Like, my biggest concern is where I was 4 years ago. I don't want somebody listening in to be that guy where you're just making $300-400 a day in gross revenue, and you're not really making anything because you have low prices and bad route density. And maybe even looking at your previous lawn landscape company, hindsight's probably 2020. Like, man, I would have done this different, would have done that different. But again, easy for us to all say looking backwards, right?
Right.
But that's why that's why I want to get all these different guys on the podcast and say, look, if you want to run a large lawn maintenance company, that's fine. But just, focus on these couple different areas to make sure that if you're going to do this niche or this part of the business or this part of the industry, it's the most profitable it can be.
For sure.
So let me ask you about this man-hour rate. We've talked about this on a couple different other podcasts, and a couple other people have shared it on other podcasts. So in our industry, like, $55 a man-hour is pretty good. Commercial mowing, believe it or not, it's like less profitable than residential mowing, according to.
And they shop it every year.
Oh yeah, there's no loyalty to commercial. People are like, why do you have like a half dozen commercial clients? I'm like, because they're not very loyal. And I know if you're listening to this, there's always that one guy. He's like, man, I've only done 10 hospitals for 20 years. Okay, that's cool. That's a pretty anomalous situation.
Yeah, well, and his sister-in-law is married to the CEO. There's always something else bad.
Great point. Great point. Well, and I remember Greg Whitstock, who the pond guy. I think Greg. He's in Illinois. He different industry, but he goes, look, dude. He goes, the reason he likes ponds is he was just talking about this on another podcast, on the Landscape Disruptors podcast with Stanley, that his man hour rate in 2019 was like $250 an hour, and he was just slaying it, and people are like 250. And then when you look at the other parts of the industry of lawn and landscape, like irrigation was like 55 or $58 an hour. Like commercial mowing is like 37, residential mowing is like 45. Forgive me, I don't know what it is for brick pavers or treatments. But we're trying to make the most money in the same amount of time that we all have to grow these businesses. What are you guys normally noticing in like the pressure washing, power washing industry? Do you guys try to operate under the same mentality of, high per man hour rates?
Yeah, I almost don't want to say honestly, man, I've never went on the record to this. My biggest fear is with the mass distribution. The mass distribution of information on the internet, and all these guys throwing up YouTube channels showing everyone how to pressure wash and how you can go wash a house for $300 in an hour.
Keith.
Is the guy you got Bucket Bob and his cousin Toot Tony that says, well, man, I only need $150 an hour. And and then it's that downward pressure on the market. But for us, it's not uncommon for us to do $150 to $175 a man hour.
Yeah, I like it.
And so, and here's the greatest thing, because man hour rate is one thing. The other equations, especially in the lawn care business and lawn maintenance business, trying to use the right terms here, is I always say there's two types of lawn maintenance companies. The ones that know they're broke and the ones that don't know they're broke yet. Because they're really when you figure in, if you're talking about putting employees on your equipment, not in a self-employed, solo operator type of business, but I'm talking about trying to grow that as a business.
Right.
Your man hour rate is not high enough for you to weather the storm of equipment replacement, vehicle replacement, advertising, administration, and back-end operations. You'll get to a certain point where you need to have an operations manager, these middle management people. And I know it because I was there. I'm trying to tell people from experience, you'll get to the point where you go, I need somebody just to play air traffic control while I keep going and selling.
Right.
And you can't afford to hire that person. And so that's the challenge with trying to scale a business that doesn't bill out at least $100 a man hour. Now, by all means, if you can make $60 a man hour and you're by yourself, that's way better than working a job making $20 an hour in the same building every day, pushing the same button over and over again, right? I'd want to blow my brains out. So it's definitely an improvement, but I think there's you have to be cautious if you're trying to scale that type of business.
Well, that's kind of where, DJ, you know how this goes. Like you and me, we talk a bunch actually off the record, like behind the scenes, and we're buds. I didn't just like wing it and like, hey, I need somebody today as a guest. DJ, where you at? Like we were, I was like, DJ, you want to get on the show? You're like, yeah, I'm busy. You're busy. Let's lock down a date. And this finally worked out this afternoon. But I was laughing because you and I have talked about, sometimes people like poke fun. They're like, oh, you're just an owner operator. And like, if you knew so much more about business, you'd have 10 guys, 10 trucks and the whole deal. And I'm like, look, bro, like I get the idea of some people want to grow a larger lawn and landscape company, but again, growing a larger landscape company is what I would encourage people to do versus growing a larger mowing company, because DJ's not wrong. Like, I don't know how many times you got to hear from like the Ballards, the Troy Clogs, a lot of these guys. They run the mowing. It is profitable, but it's not exceedingly profitable, right? They make the margin in the landscaping. So my lay of the land 4 years ago was, well, I don't want to drop another $150,000 into the business to grow the landscaping side of it, because I don't have dump trucks, a skid steer, a Mini X. I don't have that stuff. I don't also have the education. Now I could go rectify both in 18 months, but I just was like, look, I can run an owner operator lawn mowing rig, make $125 per man hour. $125 for two of us, so we're both like $50-$60 per man hour. But we run our rig at $125 an hour all day long. When I do plow snow, it's way north of $125 to $175 an hour. Way north of that.
Snow's good money, man.
Great money in snow. So like I've kind of cherry picked the best of our industry. In terms of the things that we can do to make money. Now, again, I don't say this as like a top down. I'm saying this as like I'm learning too, because most of you guys know my startup story. The last 10 years, I didn't make any money. The last 3-4 years, we started to make a few bucks. And as I continue to grow my business, I look around and I ask questions to a Troy Clog, a Corey Ballard, a DJ. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? Because some things you can make money, some things you can make great money. And some things, like you said, DJ, you just don't know yet that there's not a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
And so
I told Keith one time, I said, here's the problem with mowing grass. You got a bunch of grown-ass men running around trying to make businesses out of something a 13-year-old kid can do.
Sure. No, you're not right. You're not wrong.
You get paid based on the level of problem that you solve. That is basic commerce, right?
Yep.
And then so the size of the problem that you solve attributes the dollar amount that you get paid for it. And then you bring in basic economics, which is supply and demand. So if supply is high and demand is low, prices go down. If demand is high and supply is low, prices go up. It's basic econ 101. And so when you have everybody and their brother that for $300, like I did, starts a mowing business, the supply is through the roof. You have somewhat of a demand because grass grows every year. People don't have to wash the algae off the side of their house. But for a lawn and landscape type of company, like landscaping is definitely where the money's at. I just wasn't passionate about that. I'm passionate about business, right? And there's a lot of guys out there that are like, dude, I love mowing grass. I love fertilizing. I love the industry. Like, if that's what your passion is, I will never talk anybody out of that. Because if that's what makes you happy, that's exactly what you should do. But at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to just run blindly through the fucking woods, you're eventually going to smack a tree.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Well, that's why we try to talk to you guys all the time. If you are going to mow, you have to be hyper profitable, like in terms of route density and efficiency. And you're not wrong. Like I feel like you can make some decent money cutting grass if you do it right. But I mean, it takes a lot of effort to make sure you make your mowing business right. I mean, you got to have the right equipment, the right routes, the right pricing. And that's why we talk about this till we're blue in the face. But you're not wrong in the aspect of, if you get the clients and you get the customers, it's the landscaping, it's the pruning, it's the mulch. And
mowing grass should be the loss leader to upsell everything else.
That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly. Like Keith Kalfas, he talks to me all the time. He's like, yeah, dude, he goes, I got out of mowing because I want to do landscaping. And he's like, I do a $13,000 landscape job and make, 50-60% gross margin. And that's what you're looking for. And he can do that landscape job in 4 days. I mean, 13 grand mowing grass, it's going to take a 2-man team, at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. I mean, you can only make so much money mowing. But again, the reason I still do it is I like the cash flow. Now I know I'm still physically involved in the business, but for me, it's 15, 18, 20 a month, 15, 18, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. It's more than that, but it's 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 a month. And I'm really, really happy with that. Because
that's all that matters, dude, right there. That's like, if you're happy with it, that's all that matters. Well, like, that's where everybody has to start at. Like, you gotta be happy.
and that gives me the base. That's where I wanted to take this full circle. Like, that's where it's giving me the base the last like 12 months. I finally caught my breath, financially. And I'm like, okay, we don't have to like just, grasp for straws. That's where I'm like, okay, now what can we do? What are some of the big guys doing? What are some of the other entrepreneurs doing? What's a Josh Latimer doing? What's a Keith or a DJ, right? And it doesn't mean like turn into like internet marketer guru. Okay, I'm not saying you got to do that. Like, there's other businesses you can start. Which, why don't we go down that rabbit hole with you? So what are you up to now? I mean, if you had the lawn landscape company, you got the pressure washing company. Let's talk entrepreneurship, man. Like, how does DJ's brain work in terms of looking at businesses for cash flow, for assets? What are you trying to do right now?
Yeah. So for me, to look at a business and say, hey, I want to be involved in that, it's got to hit a couple of markers. It's got to have reoccurring revenue, which my power washing company does not. But my power washing company is doing enough money that it makes sense to keep it around. But I want to see recurring revenue. I want to see intellectual property. Meaning that there's some type of secret sauce going on. And then I want to see a scalability factor, meaning, i.e., it's not geographically bound. See, that was a problem with the lawn care. I was geographically bound. It had the recurring revenue, but there's no IP. Okay. And so it only hit one of my three markers. And so, but I mean, I bought a fitness center in 2015 and wound up losing it in 2017. I lost $500,000 worth of real estate in a six-figure business. That kind of hurt. Yeah. I learned a lot of lessons out of that. There's not too many. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, there's not too many entrepreneurs that would still want to be an entrepreneur after getting kicked in the teeth like that was.
Wow. So what happened? So you had the gym. What? Yeah. Do you want to share any like life lessons there? Or what? Anything?
Yeah. No, I can talk about it now. I'm done with the lawsuit. So okay. I was kind of muffled for the 2 years after that until the lawsuit all got settled. But so I had a real estate agent that wanted to purchase the building. I said, hey, cool. You can purchase the building if I can, sell the business. And he said, hey, let's keep it confidential. My buyers want to keep it confidential. I'm like, all right, great. Sounds good. Took him at his word and didn't put anything in the contract. I didn't have my attorney review it. And long story short, everybody at this point knows where this is going. The guy went back on his word, spread word around town that they were buying the building. My membership in the gym was half in January of 2017 of what it was in January 2016. Wow. After, Brian, I bought this business was going under in 2015. We bought it. We completely rebranded it. We put a supplement shop in it. We did our own clothing line. We did our own supplement line. A lot of people don't know this story. And took it from 80 members to 300 members in 18 months.
Wow. That's good.
And then lost all of it. And so it sucked, man. It was rough. It hurt, but it was a cool experience. I gotta learn about products and inventory. And, I always say some people go and spend $500,000 on a Harvard education. I spent $500,000 and learned the hard way. So, it was a learning experience for sure.
Well, I'm glad you're able to laugh at it now, because I'm sure 2 years ago you're like, I'm going to kill this guy, right? One of those deals.
I was in the fetal position on the couch crying, and Tori was trying to talk me into that it was okay.
Yeah, well, I remember I talked to Keith a bunch too, and Keith, you and Keith hang out way more together, obviously, than you and I get to. And Keith's like, man, he's like, man, DJ's talking about these problems that I can only imagine ever having, and I don't want them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, he didn't tell me any details, but he's like, man, DJ's like, wearing his tinfoil hat, like screaming at this one guy, and business A is kept crushing it. Business B is like on fire. And I'm like, welcome to entrepreneurs. But that's called real talk. That's like most people, like you said, when you get on a podcast, this guy is the most successful entrepreneur, and this authoritative approach. And I'm like, no, can we just like level and just talk about real stuff? And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And like you said a nugget a second ago. It's like, as long as you learn from an experience or a mistake, it's not failure. Something like that.
A mistake isn't a mistake if you learn a lesson.
That's good. That's really good. Maybe that'll be the title, But
yeah, right. And I mean, I usually could have came on here and said, yeah, man, I started my first business with $300 my senior year of high school, and now I've got multiple companies that service, half the United States with online courses. I've consulted for Fortune 500, 70 rental units. I've wrote a book. Yeah, well, tell me what you want to learn. But that's
sure.
It's so quick to turn that guy off, because everyone knows, you're full of shit. There's something back there, behind the scenes. And what I think it comes down to is that a lot of people aren't self-conscious enough, or they're not secure enough to talk about it. Hindsight 2020. I tried to sue the guy. I wind up losing the lawsuit. The judge threw it out. I remember telling my attorney, I should have just pulled that guy out of his office and whooped his ass in the parking lot and spent my night in jail, because it would have been more fulfilling than that whole process.
That's crazy.
Hindsight 2020. I live in a nice house, and we've got Easy Pro, which is a great company. We're starting to certify guys all across the U.S., which is cool, and doing projects for big companies. And my ad tech business is probably what I'm scaling more than anything. So we build systems and software on social media platforms for Fortune 500 companies, and we've got I think we got over 70 clients now. I've got 2 account executives, about 40 employees, direct and indirect, across all the companies. So just know that, even when life punches you in the mouth, spit the blood out and keep fighting, because the storms don't stay around forever. They'll pass. The sun will come back out, and as long as you don't give up, that's what I love about entrepreneurship. There is, when you play football or basketball or a sport, there's a clock and it's running, and you only have so much time. And then at the end of the time, they tally up the score, and somebody wins and somebody loses. In entrepreneurship, you literally can play it for the rest of your life. The clock ends when you die, and you only lose if you quit. And so as long as you keep fighting, there's you could go through bankruptcy and everything. You can even go less than zero and you still don't lose. You can't give up.
I love it.
And I think that's what gets a lot of people, man, is they kind of stumble or they fall down completely, and they want to give up, and there's nobody there to motivate them or pull them back up, which is why I love programs like yours that helps motivate people, but then also teaches them. You don't have to run naked through the landmine field. You can ask the other people that's been through it, hey, where do I step and where do I don't step, and learn from our mistakes so that you can kind of have that shortcut to success, if you will.
No, dude, I'm just I love it when my guests just roll, because then I can just sit here and I'm just smiling and nodding in agreement. But I'm like, yo, this is the easiest job in the world. I'm like, man, this is way better than running a mower. No, I'm just kidding. Well, let's do this, because I know you have a lot more that you can contribute. We're gonna take a quick break and kind of change it up. But I do want to ask you about scaling businesses, hiring people, ways to bring people on and build teams and build organizations. I think you've done quite a bit of that with the couple companies that you've had over the years, which I think could add a lot of value to these guys. And then I also want to talk to you about your sales excellence university, your sales training program, because in your sales company, because the one thing that all businesses have in common is customers. And I think all entrepreneurs, in one way, shape, or form, you need to sell. And I know that is a topic that you're exceedingly passionate about. That's one of the reasons I followed you, started following you, got to know of you, from Keith, was I'm like, well, who's this guy? Who's this joker? Right. And that's how we all talk. And Keith's like, no, dude, he's a salesman. He's sales all day, all night. He can sell ice to Eskimo, that whole deal. And I go, all right, well, cool. I like the Wolf of Wall Street guys and the sales guys. So anyway, it'll be really fun, but let's do this. I'm going to get a sip of water here. Let's change it up here. Hear from today's show sponsor, and then we'll get right back into it.
Super quick, before we hear from today's show sponsor, I want to announce the winners of the contest that we mentioned back on Monday. It's a YouTube contest that Brian was doing to celebrate just the tremendous growth of Brian's lawn maintenance there on YouTube. And he has selected a couple of winners, Wolf Vez, Wolf VEZ, and Joe Ibarra. Now, I know Brian has commented on your comment, which was part of the entry process, but it's important that you email Brian, let him know which blower that you want. He's got a 3-day rule, so if you don't respond within 3 days, somebody else is eligible for your prize. So if you didn't win, you could still win.
Keep yourself protected as you grow your lawn care business. It's 2020. We believe you should have options other than hot and heavy earmuffs or standard earplugs to protect your hearing. Get comfortable protection you deserve with ISO Tunes. Our Bluetooth headphones merge high-quality audio with noise-blocking earplugs. Certified by OSHA, ISO Tunes provides protection and delivers durability to last you season after season. Visit isotunes.com to find your fit.
Before we throw things back over to Brian, have you registered for Lawntrepreneur Academy Live, Novi, Michigan, November the 7th at the Suburban Collection Showplace? Listen to the lineup this year. Keith Kalfas, Stan Genetic, Corey Ballard, Jeff Joyner, Nick Carlson, also Caleb and Brittany Allman. It's an all-day conference. It focuses on safety training, sales training. There's going to be live panels, demos as well. This is almost a nice replacement for GIE. We were all bummed out that GIE wasn't going to happen. So the next best thing, Lawntrepreneur Academy Live 2020, lawnpreneuracademy.com for details. And now back to Fullerton Unfiltered.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, thanks so much to the show sponsor for sponsoring this episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. And of course, shout out to Marty, who is taking care of all the production of the podcast. So if you guys haven't left us a 5-star rating review and just said a quick note to Marty that's putting this whole thing together, we got to thank him, because without him, this show would probably be running around like a bicycle with one wheel and one training wheel. You know what I'm saying, DJ? So that's just how it works. But we do appreciate the professional support of our show producer, and then also the sponsors that allows us to bring you guys this great content. So, well, DJ, let's go back to hiring, building systems, and building teams and culture. Open mic, I wanted to just let you kind of take it away, because sometimes when I ask questions, people don't get to talk about what they're excited about, right? And I want to leave it open to you. What's some nuggets that these guys can have as they're growing a business, as they're scaling a business? What's some things that they can learn from you and your experience, your highs and your lows, about hiring people, building teams, and building culture within an organization they're trying to build?
Yeah, love that, man. You have to make the decision to grow. That's the first thing. Like, you can't just do it haphazardly. So like we really have a goal of a certain number of people that we want to hire in the next 24 months. Now, I will tell you, the whole coronavirus, COVID-19, as much as I think it's bullshit. Let me preface that, because I always get a ton of people jump on me when I say that.
Yeah.
The virus is real, right? Just like the flu virus is real. Like, do I think it's worse? Yes, absolutely. But what I'm saying is the hype and hysteria around it is what's really screwing with businesses right now. We've had some big projects pushed off in the apartment communities because they just didn't know. They didn't know what was going to happen. And so it's not so much what's happened, it's the uncertainty, the cloud of uncertainty around that.
Absolutely.
It's very, very difficult for businesses. And so with that, you can also have uncertainty in your mind. And so you have to make the decision that you want to scale a company. And I learned this from Matt Monero and Judge Graham with Burn the Ships. They have an awesome boot camp. Shout out to them. But they will tell you, like, scaling is not doing 1 million the first year, then 2 million, then 3 million. It's doing 1 million, 2 million, 6 million, 12 million. Like, it's really ramping up and scaling. And I'm learning from guys that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's the cool thing about their content. But for me, sales has to lead the way. And so the first time I built my company, and when I say like the first time, because it's still Easy Pro, but the first time we did it was all lawn and landscaping. I sold off the equipment, the accounts, kind of hollowed it out.
Okay. And
we retained the brand and the marketing. Does that make sense? So we still have Easy Pro. So now I'm like second time building this company.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I was looking at was like, we have to restructure this, and I need to have more salespeople than anyone else in my company. We need to be a sales first organization, because nothing happens in business until a sale is made.
I like it.
Right? Does that make sense? Like, nothing happens in business until a sale is made. So
solid, bro.
What happened the first time was I was like, cool, we got crew leaders, we got technicians, we got admin people, we got ops people, all these people, and I'm the only sales guy. So now DJ every morning has to get the buckets, put them on top of his head, march down to the lake, fill it up, and hike it all the way back to the village. And I'm the only one doing that. Mm-hmm. So it burnt me out. It wore me down. And so I quickly realized, like, I need to have more salespeople than I have, any other type of person in the organization, which is tough because salespeople are probably the most difficult to hire. So what we do with our onboarding process is, before I even have a face-to-face interview with someone, I basically get their resume and then I ask them for a couple of references. If I check them and they're not a complete bozo, I send them a personality assessment. And so we use McQuaig. It costs me about $100 per test, but it's the best investment I make. And so
hold on, time out. What's the?
Yep, sorry.
No, this is good stuff. I want to go slow.
Yeah. I go too fast. So.
No, for sure, bro. Most of my guests do, and I'm like, hold on. Well, like we want to make sure that these guys have good, tangible action steps, even if they're going 100 miles on a mower. I want them to be like, hold on, time out, stop the mower, write this on my notepad. So what is it? You said, you know what I'm saying? That's what we're all doing.
Yeah.
But they want to grow and they want to build a 2-man, 5-man, 10-man company. So, so McQuaid, is that what you said?
Yeah, McQuaig. So MC. I'm dyslexic too, so just go ahead and throw that one on the top. Let me CUAIG, I believe. Let's see here.
Okay.
MCQUAIG, McQuaig Institute.
Okay.
And so they do the personality assessment, and it's we do the word survey, and that's 9 times out of 10. That's what that's like the first thing I ever do before I take on an employee.
Right.
I also send my coaching clients through it because I got to make sure that you're not like a bad person, i.e. like, that's probably not the right word to use, but like if you don't have the genetic makeup of a salesperson, now I have to do way more work than just say, cool, you're already a natural salesperson. Let me just polish you up and put you in a system.
Sure.
Right? And
sure. That makes sense.
Jim Rohn used to say this, that big companies know something that small companies don't. Big companies know that it's far too expensive and it takes far too long to create good people. And so instead you have to hire good people and then train them. And in that good people, my impersonation or my interpretation of that is good people means you're hitting the markers for the psychological makeup that you need in your company. So you're not going to go hire a quote unquote CPA analytical type person to be a salesperson. Cause like, when's the last time you ever got hard sold by a CPA? And it doesn't happen. Right. And so you need to hire the right psychological makeup for the job. And that's secret number one that a lot of guys, that was the reason why I went through 300 people in 2.5 years, man. Because, we used to do what Tommy Mello calls the fog test. Like, hey, come in here, breathe on this mirror. If it fogs up, great, you're hired, get in the truck.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah. So it's like, you can't do that if you really want to scale a company. And so you have to slow down. You have to really extend out this process. And I've made a graphic that we use for onboarding, and it's kind of like the walking process. So when we're hiring in the very, very early stages, we're like a baby just kind of flopping around on the floor. Like the potential employee doesn't know if we're really interested. We don't know if we're really interested. It's really, really slow. And then we'll hit them with the McQuaig assessment. Now we're crawling, right? We're like, all right, we're going to move you through the process. Then we'll do an in-person interview. I still hire every single person, whether they be a virtual person, i.e. somewhere else in the United States or around the world, or if they're a localized person. I still do all the hiring and all the firing. So then we're like, once they're onboarded, then we get them into training. Okay. And now that's where we start saying, all right, you're stumbling around and you're starting to learn how to walk. As they phase out of training and start to move into walking on their own, they're going to fall down. That's what babies do. And so every time they fall down, we need to stick them back into training so they can learn a little better, and we send them out to walk again.
Okay. Yep.
As they're onboarded, now they're out there walking. They're on their own. You don't have to babysit them anymore. They're walking. Now my job is to now go from hiring and training to empowering them. And you do that with company culture and a great compensation plan. And my goal is to get my team member from walking to sprinting as fast as possible. So they got to go walking, then they're jogging, then they're running, then they're sprinting. And anytime that a team member isn't sprinting, they're either 1, lacking in training, or 2, lacking in a sense of ownership, meaning I give them enough rope that they can break things. And so I tell all my team members, I don't mind if you make mistakes. I don't mind if you tear shit up. I don't mind if you break things. Just don't do it more than once. Because it comes back to that principle of a mistake is okay as long as you learn the lesson. And so that's our whole philosophy on hiring and onboarding. And then you wrap all that up with a bow called company culture and core values. And that's how you do it, man.
Dude, I mean, that's like how to build a company, you know, in 10 minutes or less, right? but no, it is really interesting, you know, because we both know Josh Latimer, and he's an amazing dude. And Josh says it comes down to desire, beliefs, and systems. And now a lot of us, we all got the desire. If you're listening to this, you got the desire. You wouldn't be listening to, Fullerton Unfiltered, podcast, 42.
You'd be listening to music.
Yeah, you'd be listening to music. You wouldn't be listening to, me and DJ try to spit bars at you guys for 42 minutes if you guys didn't have the desire. Now, a lot of us have the belief. Now, some of us have different varying levels of belief, but most of us, we have a belief in what we're trying to do or create. But what I think a lot of folks miss is those systems. And what you just described to me was a system. Like, you have a great system for bringing people in, getting them up to speed, getting them competent, getting them engaged in your organization, whatever company that is, right? So you probably use the same system or a similar system.
Yeah.
Or let me ask you this. Did you use a similar system for your multiple different companies? Is this what works for you?
So, I mean, I've just developed this in the past 24 months.
Okay.
So that's why when everyone's like, they look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're 32 years old and you coach." It's like, yeah, well, I've got more real life experience in the trenches than most 50-year-olds can hold.
Sure.
And so I got no problem going toe to toe with them, because it's like, that's how I make this stuff. It's not like this is just some theory. It comes out of practicality. I'll tell you where the crawling to sprinting thing happened was with my director of operations. I told her, I said, "Amanda, you're not making enough decisions. You're coming to me to check on way too much stuff. Like, just make the decision and go." Because every time that your team has to come to you and ask you for permission or ask you to make a decision, you're slowing your company down, because you now are becoming the bottleneck. And so I would much rather them just make the decision. It breaks and we say, "Oh, shoot, we lost a client, we lost some money, something bad happened, but let's fix it and now move forward." I would much rather fix it on the backside than fix it on the front side.
No, that's solid. I mean, what you're saying is, there's a lot of nuggets in between here, guys. So if you're listening to this on a mower, later on tonight, re-listen to it, because there's a lot of little nuggets baked in here that could really help you guys out. One thing that I've always tried to communicate to my guys is don't just teach people like the how, like I think is what you're just kind of describing. Don't just teach people the how, teach them the why and the thought process behind it, right? Because it's like, well, we're going to go power wash this, this house, or we're going to go mow this lawn. But the way we do it, the why we do it, why do we cut, trim, blow, and instead of trim, blow, cut, right? Or
exactly.
why do we swoop to the right of the house as we mow instead of going left? Or why do we walk right instead of walking left? There's no right or wrong answer for my business compared to your guys' business. Every business is different. But the way that I'm comfortable running my business, for safety, for profit, for this and for that, we run certain things different ways. Like just the other day, my guy Rob, he was in a position where about twice a day or 3 times a day, he was waiting on me at the trailer to make a move about doing something next. And this was going on for like a month. It was just a weird habit that he picked up. And I told him, so I took 30 seconds or 3 minutes. And I said, "Hey, Rob, quick point here." And Rob does a great job. Rob's one of my employees, does a great job. But I said, "Rob, like, what are you thinking right now when you keep asking me this?" And I was like, "You're not wrong, or nothing bad. I just, what are you thinking? What's your bottleneck here on asking me this?" He goes, "Well, I just don't know what to do and what you want me to do next." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Great." I said, "Well, here's why when sometimes I tell you yes and why sometimes I tell you no about a certain task that we're going to do next." And I said, I gave him some instruction. I gave him some practical roadmap to understanding the why between why we do the how. And so here's the thing. It's been a week. He doesn't ask me the same it's like I was actually kind of getting annoyed because I'm a real person too. And I was like, "Rob, why are you waiting? Why are you doing this? Or why are you asking me this?" And Rob does 1,000% good work. Like, I'm not, beating down Rob, but it's just a practical example that I had to slow down and go, "Oh, I didn't train Rob correctly." Like I got him to a certain point, but I still got to keep training. I still got to keep instilling thought process. Right. And after a 3-minute conversation, he didn't do it anymore. And I say that all the time because or I say that because a lot of you guys DM me on Instagram and say, man, like my guy just doesn't understand how to trim. Like he doesn't understand how to run the mower. Now, this is lawn landscaping for my world, right, DJ? But it's like, well, my guy, he just can't trim the way I do. And I'm like, no. He just doesn't think the way you think. And what you don't do is spend time to teach him thought process. You just throw a weed whip in his hand and say, go get him, trim good. and I know, like we were joking, I know like a prison inmate can do some of the work that we do. Like it's not, or a 15-year-old kid. I'm not trying to like belittle us because I do the same stuff that you guys are doing, but to do it,
we spray water for a living. Like,
yeah, you get it. Like we all do simple tasks, but somehow like we have all these guys that mess it up. But the reason that you can be boutique or make good money is because you do it the right way every time, and you got to explain thought process, man. You got to, again, just hiring a guy on the rig and say, hey, meet me at this address. I'll pick you up at said parking lot and you'll be on my crew. That's not the best way to do it. You got to spend some time to get these guys up to speed. Is that kind of in a nutshell?
That's a way to make cash. That's not a way to run a business. So the way when I say I wrap that all with a bow of company culture is because our company culture is centered around our 4 core values, which are growth, integrity, velocity, and excellence. And
growth. Hold on. Growth.
Yep.
Do it again for these guys.
Yeah. So it's the acronym of GIVE. GIVE.
Okay.
So growth, integrity, velocity, and excellence. Growth. You're happiest when you're becoming more. When you're becoming something more than you are. Right. So happiness doesn't have to be a core value as long as we're growing, because if you're growing, you're happy. Integrity, your word is everything. Right. And so like, there's sometimes when you got to like have a conversation with a client and it's like, it feels weird because you're not really lying, but you're kind of embellishing because you don't want to piss them off. Like we talk about that all the time. Like that is a gray area where we could really sacrifice our integrity. We don't want to get there. So our word is our bond.
Sure.
Velocity is speed in the right direction. So going back to being that chemistry nerd and in physics, speed is only the time from one point to the next, right? The time that it takes you to get from point A to point B. But there is no bearing on direction. So it's kind of like being motivated. If you take a dummy and you motivate him, well, now you just got to motivate a dummy. Like you got to make sure that he's going in the right direction.
It's huge. So, it's huge.
Velocity is that one. And then last one is excellence. And excellence is always attaining our best. And that's where, we don't make the same mistake twice. And so here, check this out. This is the cool part about core values is I don't ever have to tell anybody anything anymore. Like there's not like, hey man, I don't like what you're doing. All I have to do is take them to our board where our core values are. And it's like, hey man, this thing where you're like standing around, right? Our core value of velocity, speed in the right direction. Like, do you feel like you're really like traveling with speed when you're just standing at the truck with me? Like, what do you? Oh no, I'm not. Right. So if it's speed in the right direction, I'm thinking maybe you don't know the right direction to go. So let's have a conversation about that. And so now it's like you manage by your core values, and like all those weird conversations go away because it's like, I just need you to live by the core values. And if you do that, then everything takes care of itself.
Well, dude, I mean, that's a clutch nugget, bro. Like I love that. I like that a lot. Well, and I don't know if you got this from, who's the guy, Coach K that did the Duke University and did the book, The Gold Standard.
Okay.
It was a really good book. I don't know if you ever heard this one?
I haven't read that. No. Tell me.
It's an older book. It's maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. He won the gold Olympics for the men's U.S. basketball team. Right.
Okay.
But that's what he did. He said, imagine this. He goes, I have to take whatever it was, 5, 8, 10, 12 of the NBA's best, right? Like the LeBron James, the Carmelo Anthony's, the Kobe Bryant's, right? I've got to take literally 10, 12, whatever the team was, of the most diva, ultra successful, right? The most egotistical NBA players. And I got to get them to all work together for a common goal. Right? The U.S. gold medal. And people said, well, how are you going to do this? And he goes, man, it took a lot of thought process. But what it was is he had all of, let's say there's 8 or 10 guys on the court at practice. And he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a team value system, a team goal, a team identity. And what we're all going to do is everybody's going to contribute to this thing. And because everybody contributed to it, they have buy-in. And, at the end of it, there was, let's say there's 8 guys or 7 guys. I don't even know how many people on a basketball team. I have no idea how many quarters are in baseball either. Okay. Like I have no idea. I'm just messing, bro. I don't do sports. I have no idea, guys, but listen, I do know how to buy a suite though. So that's a whole nother topic, but, so let's just keep going. But the bottom line is he goes, everybody contributes one thing, and they had this list of core values. And he said, all right, well, we're all going to commit to this together because the team created this value, this value statement, this core mission of what they were trying to do. In this example, win the gold medal for the U.S., right? But then what he did do is it wasn't top down, right? He didn't say to, Kobe Bryant, hey, Kobe, like, let's say, for example, excellence was one of the cornerstones of their 7, things that they put on that list, right? Well, if Kobe's slipping, Coach K didn't have to go to Kobe and say, Kobe, you're slipping. He could, Carmelo Anthony would lean over and say, Kobe, dude, you ain't playing your best, bro. Like, we all committed to being excellent. And the team and the culture was reinforcing those core values. And so what you just said just made me really think about that is like, again, if you hire somebody and at the hiring process, you say, hey man, here's our core values. Like, this is what we commit to. And if you bring them into the organization, then you have a couple options here. One, the culture, right, is going to make them grow up or spit them out. Either way is fine. Their peers are going to encourage them. Hey, man, we all committed to this. This is the standard, the gold standard. Or they're just a liar, and you can filter them out of your organization.
For sure, man.
And by the way, guys, I don't care if you have just one guy on your team and it's just you and the guy that's trimming grass. Like I tell my guy.
That was my biggest mistake, Brian. It was like I thought that after I sold my lawn and landscape company, we went back down to 3 guys. I'm like, how can I have company culture? Well, company culture is like going and getting breakfast once a month. Like, company culture is still having those core values. And I mean, honestly, man, like, self-admitting here, like, I'm the sales guy. I'm the sales and marketing guy where I'm like, I don't want all that fluffy bullshit. Let me just go close deals. And that's what caused me problems over the years, is because I thought I could just sell my way out of not having company culture. And you can't, man. Like, you have to have it. And for me, I'm not that guy. It's like, oh, well, we got to have equality and equity and everyone's got to get along and see kumbaya. Like, no, like that's not me. I'm like, just show up and do your job. But that doesn't work, man. When you get in an organization and you try to grow, you have to have some of these management tools in place, so that when I do have these management tools in place, I can go out and sell. Like, I can go, put out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of quotes and lock down deals, and it allows me to do what I love in the company.
That's awesome.
And I think a lot of guys just miss that. And then also the other thing is, like, a lot of guys, they don't recruit. Like, you should always be recruiting. Just because Billy filled that position that you had open doesn't mean that Billy's the best out there. And that's another part of our company culture. Like, anybody can be replaced. If that's like saying, well, I got Reggie Miller, but, because I got Reggie Miller, that means I would never take Michael Jordan. Like, you're crazy. As much as I love Reggie and I grew up in Indy and I'm a Pacers fan, like, if Michael Jordan wants to be on the team, I'm going to replace Reggie Miller.
Yeah. So why would you not want to have a better baseball team? You know what I'm saying? Like, hello. Right?
I love it.
I just have fun. I know the reason I do is that because I know it gets the goose of so many guys listen, and they're like, how do you not know about the Marlins or the Dolphins or the Colts? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know, man. Like,
too busy counting all that money from YouTube. Man.
Oh yeah, exactly. You guys see how it goes full circle, man. It's all those YouTube millions. Yeah, the only stats I'm checking out every night is my bank balance because I want to buy that Tesla. You know what I'm saying, DJ? So
I've seen it. I still don't know what the story is behind that, but every once in a while, I'll see you like repost people like, oh, there's a Tesla, Brian. I'm like,
I just want a Tesla, bro.
Get really excited about a Tesla.
I don't know. I just want a Tesla. Like my current problem, bro. Like, for real, and I've shared this before on other podcasts. My only current problem is that there's no 220 in my luxury apartment. There's no 220 in the garage. So like I can't get one. Like I made this whole thing where, like, if I get 100,000 subs, I want to go buy the Tesla, but like straight up, I can't charge it. And how it works is the 220 will recharge like, a couple hundred miles worth of range and like, overnight. But when you have a 110,
I was gonna say they won't plug into a regular 110 outlet?
Well, the 110 charger takes like 96 hours for 60 miles. So it's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, bro. So like you can get it and you can charge it in the wall. But like if you drive more than like 20, 30 miles a day, it's going to take like 2 to 3 days. So Liz goes, what are we going to do? Like get it and then charge it at the Walmart down the road on the on the EV Go system? I go, So now this sounds so pretentious, but now we bought land and property, which we were trying to do anyway.
Congrats.
Thank you. But now, you know what I'm saying? Now I got to build this stupid house to like charge my stupid Tesla. I'm like, if there wasn't a first world problems podcast,
that's first world problems I've never heard of.
I don't know how any other way to say it. I was like, well, we don't want to buy some like little starter home and outgrow it in 2 years when we have kids. So I'm like, this sounds so stupid. Like, I can't believe my problems today. Like my problems today are not the problems where I was 4.5 years ago, trying to like, you know, put more than 10 grand in the bank account. But,
right.
So
everybody's got problems, man. You just gotta, as long as you keep having new problems, it's a good thing. If you keep having the same problems over and over again, that's where you really got a situation you got to get out of.
Well, that's a good nugget. Well, my most recent problem was the management of the apartment complex didn't want to pay half to install 220. It was like $3,500. I go, why don't you pay half? I'll pay half, and then you can have an EV ready unit when I move out. When I move out, right? Like, wouldn't that make sense? They said no. I said, you guys suck, man. Like, so now I got to like go charge it at like a Marriott down the road, or I don't, dude. It's so stupid, DJ. Like, I get mad just talking about it because it sounds so pretentious, but I don't know any other way to solve the problem. So it's like, I'm like,
hey, you just gotta sell more, man.
That's
if you sell more, then those problems go away. That's why I love sales, is because if you got problems, you can make them go away. Like,
yeah, amen.
You know, and I get it. Like, there's always the guy that says money isn't everything, and I understand it's not, but it's literally right up there with oxygen.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, I like the Instagram meme. It's like the guy in the jet ski. It's like, I've never, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can buy a jet ski. You know what I'm saying? And
right? Yeah.
you ever seen anybody with a frowny face on a jet ski? You know what I'm saying? But
same thing, man. When I'm driving the slingshot, I'm not unhappy.
Yeah, yeah. No, dude. In 24 months, we're gonna get the slingshot, probably a Raptor. I'm gonna get a Razor, a General. I'm gonna buy one of everything, and
just get all the toys.
I am. I really am. I mean, I'm gonna just buy it all. I mean, hopefully, like YouTube pays for half of it, and I'm just literally gonna be that YouTube guy that I'm just gonna bring everybody over. Like if you're not a weirdo, I'll bring you over, and we'll just hang out and use them all and write all the damn toys off. Amen. So, but
I love it
for
man.
A business expense. But anyway, so let me ask you about this, bro. Let's wind up with this. Why don't you take a few minutes and talk to these guys about not a huge plug here. We're not trying to pitch just the pitch, but you do have a great passion for sales. We just established that.
Yeah, man.
You have a Sales Excellence University. What is it? How can people find more about it? And how did you get into the coaching and the training of doing sales training? Because I find that really, really unique.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I hired a sales coach when I was 19 or 20.
Okay.
And, it cost me $6,000 for 6 months.
Wow.
And the guy's like, you can just put it on a credit card. And I'm like, my credit card has like $1,000 limit, bro.
Wow.
I'm, 19, 20 years old. And
yeah.
I was like, okay, write me 6 checks for $1,000 a piece and post date them. I'll let you in the program. And so I was like, okay.
Wow.
And
figure it out mentality, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got into training. I learned a ton. And it really, like, I saw the dollar for dollar ROI. Like, my closing rate went up. It put my mindset in a whole different place because, I was a young kid. And that's the first time, like, I saw that was a potential career. Like, you don't go to high school and on career fair day, they're like, all right, raise your hand if you want to be a consultant. Like,
yeah. No, you're right.
That doesn't happen. And so, and I even remember, like, one of my early on window cleaning clients, Lou Holt. I still remember his name. Not Holt. Lou.
It's like Lou Holt. Nice.
No, not Lou Holt.
He was the captain of that Marlins baseball team. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you what, man. We're giving them education and labs.
If you haven't turned off the podcast by now you did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Gotti. Lou and Gotti. So Lou tells me he's an old guy, and I'm like, so what do you do, Lou? And he's like, I'm a consultant.
Okay.
And I remember, Brian, it was the first time I ever heard that word. And I was like, what the hell is a consultant? He was like, well, basically, I'm overqualified for anyone to hire me as an employee. And I was like, oh,
great.
Okay, makes sense.
Sure.
And so, circling back around, like, I had this sales coach 6 months in. I'm like, man, this is great. He really taught me a lot. He invited me to come speak, and I really learned that I just had a natural knack for public speaking, and I love it, man. Being on stage is where I feel most alive. Making videos are cool, but there's just nothing like being that in-person interaction. And so being a speaker and a coach is just kind of, they go hand in hand. It's like lawn care and landscaping, I tell people. And so for me, I've had so much real world experience that I've been able to develop some awesome content from, consultants that I've hired, from books that I've read. There is no new information out there. There's just new spins on the information that's already available.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
yep.
So for me, I think I have a great skill in like just plain English, cutting it down and explaining it in a real world stance. Sales Excellence University is actually closed right now, so we're not accepting any new students. So,
okay.
Well, sorry guys, but
yep.
I will tell you what I would recommend everyone do is get my free book, Phenomenal Phone Calls, because when I started out my lawn and landscape business, I was going door to door, knocking on doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing, I'm like, man, I can only see like 10 people a day, and like half the people are just shutting the door and they're not even interested. So I got to figure out something better. And that was what one of my first sales coaches helped me with, was phone sales.
Okay.
And
wait, hold on. Where can people get it? If you don't mind me asking, it's like a website.
Yeah. Phenomenalphonecalls.com.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we got that. So, yep.
Yeah. Super easy. Phenomenalphonecalls.com. The book's free. It's only 44 pages. It's got lots of pictures. Like I said earlier, I'm dyslexic. So, I wanted to make sure there's plenty of pictures and diagrams in there.
My favorite.
But, you pay like $7 for shipping. We give it to you for free, but it literally will change the way you do cold calling. I had one guy tell me at a seminar I did, he was like, dude, I've closed over $20,000 worth of work just on the cold calling strategy that you teach in that book. So
wow, that's awesome.
And you get the same thing, man. Like when people come up and say, Brian, I did X, or you changed my life because of this, or that video. Like, it's just, man, you can't put a dollar amount on that. So,
absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
But yeah, phenomenalphonecalls.com is my book. That's kind of, we call it the gateway drug. Like, it'll get you in, and, that gives you the Coach Carroll isms of life a little bit. And, but, I've just spoke on stage all across the U.S. I've probably done over 100 presentations live. I've done hundreds of videos on training. What
about your Ignite, your event, Ignite, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have it, man. It's going to be in February. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to like rent out the Yum Center or something so everybody can be social distance. But
are you guys still closed down there? Are you guys, how's it going? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, bro. Louisville, Kentucky. Like, hello, we're the epicenter, like next to the George Floyd thing. Like, the windows are still boarded up, and I think. Just kind of, a lot of your listeners are probably too young, and even I'm too young. I had to go do research, but like the Rodney King riots in LA, they didn't get bad until after the verdict came out and dropped it.
Oh, wow.
All the findings. So we're still boarded up, but hopefully,
we're closed down here. It sucks. But I might take our live event to a red state. We'll find out. But
right.
We might take it to Texas. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But maybe 2021. You know what I'm saying, DJ? But
yeah, absolutely.
But I digress.
For us, man. I'm excited. For the cure of COVID on November 5th to get here, and I think that'll help us out a lot.
Yeah.
We're definitely doing Ignite, LouisvilleIgnite.com. We'll have some info going out. We haven't updated it from last year because, contrary to popular belief, I'm not just a guru. Like, I actually have businesses to run. So,
you're an actor,
some guy DM'd me the other day. He's like, dude, what the hell? You haven't put up a YouTube video in like months. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm having 2 companies with double-digit growth. Been a little busy. But yeah, full circle. I mean, that's where the Coach Carroll name comes from. I always say when my rich Uncle Eddie shows up and cuts me $1 million check, I'll shut everything down and just be Coach Carroll and help people. But until then, I got to make sure the bills don't start coming on pink sheets again. No,
dude, no, this is good, bro. Well, where can people find you, man? Let's button this up. We're at an hour, and I super appreciate the time. So we covered a little bit of everything, man. This is I some people I know I can just hit record and let them talk, and they're gonna carry it. And you did a banger job, bro. I mean, lots of nuggets baked into here. So if you guys enjoyed this, go back through it once or twice, check it out. I think you guys will really enjoy it. But where can people find you if they want to go down the DJ Carroll rabbit hole?
Yeah, man, just hashtag Coach Carroll, Carroll, on any social media platform. So if you just type that into the search bar on any platform, that's one little thing that a lot of people don't understand how hashtags work. They're like keywords. So I own that one, man. It's I put tons of content out around it, so I'm easy to find. Or if you want to get in my Motivation Monday text club, you can just text me 502-206-0511, 502-206-0511. And then, make sure you guys go leave a 5-star review on this podcast because I know it was fire.
No, dude, no, I appreciate the time, bro. More than you know. I actually bumped DJ back, then I bumped him forward, and then I bumped him back because I had equipment breakdown because go figure, real life, like you said.
Because of real life.
Yeah,
right?
real life business. And I'm like, dude, and you're like, you want to reschedule? I'm like, no, dude, we're in for this, bro. And so we locked it down. And no, dude, I mean, in all sincerity, man, I really enjoyed your presentation. Gosh, it was probably almost like 2.5 years ago at Keith's event.
Yeah,
we've stayed in touch with each other ever since, and I know that you and Keith get to hang out a lot. And every time a video comes out on his channel with you, I'm always making sure to drop that thumbs up. So yeah, no, dude. I mean, if you guys have questions on sales or closing or this or that, definitely reach out to DJ on Instagram. I know he's active on that, but
yeah, for sure.
That's what I got, bro. Appreciate you joining with us, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, and appreciate everybody listening. And as always, man, reach out if I can help you guys. I don't have a huge audience, so you'll get right through on the DMs, and I can normally hit you back within one day. So
I love it, bro.
Appreciate you having me on, brother.
Yeah, you bet, man. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna button this up. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast, guys. We'll send it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer, to take it away.
Thank you again to IsoTunes for sponsoring today's episode. And no shock here, Brian's 10 saves you 10%. As a general rule, I am just trying that promo code on whatever website I'm on when checking out. Wouldn't surprise me if Brian's 10 one day saves me some money on my new Tesla. One can dream, right? Hey, check out isotunes.com. Also visit lawentrepreneur.academy.com to get that whole ball of wax, including all new updates for life. The cost is $4.99, but not for long. And while you're there, go ahead and pull the trigger on coming to Law Entrepreneur Academy Live on November 7th. Risk-free. Should it get canceled, Brian will refund 100% of your ticket price. And finally, let me encourage you to share this podcast with a lawn bro that you think might really like it. And come back soon for another exciting and informative show.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.